In 5-minute doodle start, the first one, women's singles.
157 athletes from 21 different nations have traveled to the Hochsauerland of North Rhine-Westphalian, Winterberg, Germany for stop number 6 on the EBERSPA Luge FIL World Cup Tour. Hi again, everyone. I'm Tim Singer. 2 exciting doubles races in the books. One history-making in men's doubles as Wendell Alt capture World Cup win number 55. And another current history in the making as the Austrian women, Egle and Schulte, capture women's doubles for the 5th week in a row. Now we turn our attention to the women's singles competition, which also figures to be a battle among the Austrians and the Germans, who hold all of the 5 top spots in the World Cup standings. They start a little higher here for women's singles, 1,293 meters, and it's the start house, which is actually up in the upper right part of your screen. Pretty flat start for the women. They can do a lot of paddles as they make their way through a little curve 0, an added curve about 20 years ago. And then the first big test right there in corner number 2. Then they'll cruise on past the doubles start ramp and a big sweeping left-hand curve number 5. Then before you know it, a couple little turns and the 270-degree Veltins Kreisel corner. Out of the Kreisel, one little right-hand turn, corner 8, and then a big left-handed number 9, followed by another right, which is a steep downhill into the lower labyrinth. This is where there was a lot of trouble earlier today in the men's doubles competition. If you make any mistake, chances are better than not you may not carry speed to the finish if you even stay on your sled. So the conditions here have been great today. A rarity for Winterberg. I know we make fun of it, but I have actually been here a couple of years with sunshine. It's the exception and not the rule, but it isn't unheard of. As you see, it's gotten a lot warmer today, so it's later in the day. More of the track is in the shade, but due to the warm temperatures, I believe the shades will still be up on several parts of this track. Emily Sweeney set that track record yesterday in winning the Nations Cup title, but that start record by the great Natalie Geisenberger is now 15 years old. 30 will start in this competition. The first 5, the top qualifiers from the Nations Cup. Then they move into the seeded group all the way down to Lisa Schulte. Schulte with 5 podiums this season. Madeline Egle leading the way in the World Cup standings, 4 points ahead of her teammate Schulte. Madeline with 3 wins to go along with 1 rough showing in the race in Sigulda. There's a look at Lisa. She's had 5 podiums, no victories, but a 2nd and 3 third-place results, and she will wear that World Championship bib at least for 2 more weeks, this week and next week in Oberhof, before we head to Whistler, Canada. And you got to believe that Lisa's going to be on that short list of favorites, but so is this woman here, Madeline Egle. 3 wins this year for Egle. That's Tova Koala of Sweden. Tova did really well yesterday in Nations Cup as well. As we look off into the distance, ski jumps not too far from here, and a small skiing hill where people come from everywhere from Frankfurt to the Netherlands to do a little bit of winter sports in Winterberg. Still congratulations around from the mascot to Jessica Degenhardt and Cheyenne Rosenthal. Worth chugging a beer over, a Veltins beer, as you see down there in Hardyland. We'll see that man right there, Christers Aperiodes, tomorrow in the men's singles competition. But we turn our attention to women's singles now. 30 start, 20 will qualify for run number 2. And here is the youngest athlete competing all weekend in any race here in Winterberg, Germany, 16-year-old Margita Sirsnina, as Latvia has two of the most seasoned athletes on tour in Kendia and Elina, but they also have some young athletes they're bringing along. Start time of 5.105. That's 0.2 of a second off of the start record. It'll be interesting to see if Natalie's long-time start record will fall today. Certainly, Margita's teammate Elina Bota has the chance to threaten it at least. 2 runs combined time. So this is run number 1, and when Margita makes her way down at the finish, she'll have a time of 56-57 seconds, and then they will add on to that, providing she can make it down safely. This is the spot that gave all of the double sleds trouble earlier today. Bucked around a little bit, but at 86 miles an hour, or 80 miles an hour rather, 55.691, she tumbles across the finish, but gets a finish time.
Are you okay, Margita? Sie lacht, scheint doch ganz gut zu gehen.
Our public address track announcer trying to make sure that Margita's okay. She didn't respond to him, but that smile lets you know she's okay. And she didn't really give away a lot of time. Fortunately, with that crash happening right at the finish line. Earlier today in women's doubles, we saw Diana Eitberger crash right at that exact same spot, and all she did was end up in the top 4 at the end of the day. But here's the reaction from Coach Martins Rubenis. Never easy to see any of your pupils crashing. But quickly on course, here is Tova Kohala, Team Sweden, 23 years old, sled built by her brother Svante. Tova finished 20th at the Beijing Olympic Games. She could be a podium possibility later this year. I'm not sure of her. What I'm talking about is the under 23 competition at the World Championships, but Tova will turn 24 right before those Worlds. So I'm not quite sure how the criteria works. Sometimes if you begin the year at age 23, you stay there. That'll be interesting to see. But meantime, the matter at hand, pretty good run for Koala. Her time of 55.691 for Sweden Sports, as the hat tells you. Sweden will also have a men's luge competitor, Tova's brother Svante, racing tomorrow, and in fact a second member of the men's luge team just missed out in qualifying for the World Championship by 1 spot. Thumbs up from Tova Koala. Now the 3rd place finisher yesterday, Sandra Robacha of Italy. Sandra, born in the city of Bolzano, now 29 years old.
3
top 10 finishes this year, including her season best 7th last week in Altenburg, on a track that she fares well on all the time. A track that gives a lot of athletes trouble. Already a 1/10 of a second up on Sweden. Two-time Olympian with a 14th place finish in Pyeongchang. Also 22nd place back in 2014 at the Sochi Olympics. Sandra finished 11th at this World Cup race last year, falling behind Sweden now, which gives you an indication that Tova had a pretty good run. Not the best of lines in the 12, 13, 14 transition for Sandra, as she's in 2nd place, 0.2 of a second back. That's the great Armin Zugler, the all-time greatest Olympian in singles luge with 6 Olympics, 6 Olympic medals, who has been the team leader of this Italy program with a slew of other coaches ever since he retired.
2 Zehntel der Rückstand. Und nun die zweite Disqualifikation aus Österreich, Dorothea Schwarz.
Here's the second place finisher in the Nations Cup yesterday. She won the Nations Cup last week and is leading currently in the standings. Austria's Dorothea Schwarz. Dorothea, a teenager still, at least for the next 4 days. She will turn 20 on Tuesday. Steve writes in, watching on the YouTube chat here, what sort of prize money do they offer the top 3 during World Cup Luge, or is it mainly the love of the sport? Well, I don't have the exact answer for you on that one, Steve. I know they all love the sport. That's really, you need to stay in it. There is prize money. There is also national federation incentives. In some cases, there are sponsor bonuses. That's all I can tell you. I can't give you exact numbers on that, but I'll try to find out. Thanks for the question. As Schwarz stays out ahead of Kohala here into curve 14. As the sun continues to shine on the track, a track record of 55.190 for Dorothea Schwarz, the first of 4 from Austria. Dorothea had a 9th place finish in Lillehammer. That's a career best for her. And perhaps a little nervous the following week on her home track in Innsbruck. She had her poorest showing of the season with a 15th. Actually finished higher than that last week, but was in the end disqualified from that race in Altenburg. Now we've got Emily Sweeney, the first of 4 from the United States. Emily had a podium finish on this track at the World Championships back in 2019. 31 years old, a 2-time Olympian. Her favorite track is Königssee. A little deliberate on that settle, as you see the right arm went in well before the left arm, made sure she had it right. The start time is the 2nd fastest so far, behind Italy's Robacher. Emily took 6 weeks off this summer and did an intensive program at a university in the USA to learn German, as she will be moving to Italy this summer and getting married. And you ask why learn German to move to Italy? Well, you luge fans, of course, know she's moving to South Tyrol, northern Italy. Emily with good speed here. Anything in the green for the rest of this run will be a track record for any athlete. And Emily will be the next to do it here with a 55.190. So she breaks a 1-minute-old track record, and she's 0.04 of a second faster, or actually quite a bit more. She's about 0.13 faster than the track record she put down yesterday in Nations Cup. Look at this, the right arm goes in. She makes sure she was settled before the left arm went in. Emily got that patented Sweeney speed down at the bottom, and these problems occurred at the outrun after she had crossed the finish. So team manager Jakob Simonek helps her with the sled. And Emily, second only to Julia Taubitz when it comes to smiles in the finish area. Now Summer Britcher, 30 years old. She was born in the city of Baltimore, where they'll be rooting for the Ravens this weekend in the NFL playoffs. Summer lists as her favorite holiday location somewhere warm, and as her fun fact, she hates the cold. So maybe she should turn to surfing after her luge career. And it's been a great luge career with 5 World Cup victories, 3 Olympics, with a 4th looming next year. Trailing her teammate, Emily Sweeney, her teammate and roommate, by 0.05 of a second. Now about 0.09 back for Summer Britcher. 11th currently in the World Cup standings. She's had 3 top 7s. Those have been her best results. Looking to secure a spot for the team relay tomorrow. It's been a spirited battle between Bridger, Sweeney, and Ashley Farquharson all season long to see who the top finisher is from week to week for the USA. USA holding the top 2 spots ahead of Austria, Sweden, and Italy. We're only 6 in. We still have about 10 more remaining, 11 more remaining in the seeded group. And now Kendia Apariota. Kendia broke a little bit of a mini slump a couple of weeks ago. She had started the season slowly and out of the top 10 in every race, but then came back just off of the podium on her home track, a 4th place in Sigulda, and she followed that up with another top 10 last week in Altenburg, Germany. Kendia's favorite track is the one in Russia, in Sochi. And understandably, that is not part of the program at the moment in most of winter sports. But we do look forward to the day we can return to that very scenic location on a track that's a lot of fun for these athletes. Now through the 270-degree Veltins Kreisel, already trailing the Americans by 1/10 of a second and losing even more. Nice lines down here in the labyrinth. This is where the Latvian sleds have been fast all day long in doubles. And she does not cut into the American lead despite, and Martins Ravenis tells us it wasn't the best piece of driving. And he would know better than I.
Und nun wird's auch laut hier bei den deutschen Fans. Wir sehen Julia Taubitz, die hier so viele schöne Erfolge schon gefeiert hat.
So 2 Latvians done, another pair still to come, including one a little later on in the seeded group. But Julia Taubitz, this is unknown territory for her. She didn't have to qualify for the race, but this is the first time in recent memory Julia has not been part of the super seed, the top seeded group. She's the 2nd tier seed. That's because her last 2 races have had 9th and then a 10th on her home track in Altenburg last week. So let's see if Julia can put it together here. She finished 2nd at the World Cup in Winterberg last year. She's a 4-time World Cup overall champion and still leads all active women with 29 World Cup victories. Into the green, Julia doing what Julia does best. Now Emily was quick down here as well, so a lot of track still for a lot to happen. Taubitz said her problems during training were at the start, so she's got that behind her with the 4th fastest start time, so she should open things up on the Americans if she's clean down here, and she is. So this is a good run for Julia Taubitz to the finish line. How big will this advantage be? 2/10 of a second. Unbelievable speed down at the bottom. Emily actually had a faster miles per hour by about 4/10 of a miles per hour, but Julia had the clean lines. Great top to bottom. That's a big relief for her after 2 pretty shaky performances in Latvia and then in Altenburg, Germany. Julia currently in 3rd in the World Cup standings, trailing the 2 Austrians, Egle and Schulte. And 2 runs like that, she'll do no worse than hanging on to her top 3 position. She should hang on to the lead for a little bit here in run number 1. How long will be determined, as we've still got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 remaining in the seeded group. Verena Hofer, 2nd in the Nations Cup by 0.02 of a second last week, and now she is a fixture in the seeded group this week. 23 years old, originally from Brixen, Südtirol. one of many Italians, more than not, in World Cup Luge that start in natural track and then make their way on the artificial circuit. And they'll all tell you the reason they do that is because this is the sport that's in the Olympics. And the FIL, from time to time, does try to make a presentation, a proposal for Winterberg to be part of the Olympic Games, but it's been in vain every time. Not the best of lines down here at the bottom, as Verena Hofer crosses in 7th place, 1/2 second behind the leading German.
7th place at the moment, finish time 55.39 for Verena Hofer from Italy.
Verena through, and our second of the 4 Austrians enjoying a breakout season. Ready to start now. Like the American doubles team, this is a women's singles athlete from Austria who crushed it out of the gate in the Nations Cup with victories in each of the first 2 races. Now Barbara Allmaier is part of the seeded group, still just 21 years old. In that opening race in Lillehammer, she had a career best 4th place finish. She's had one other top 6, but to be fair, is still learning some of these other tracks as she makes her way around the world in just her 2nd season on the World Cup. Barbara grew up within 10 miles or so from the track in Eagles, Austria. 1300's back right now. If she keeps it clean, it could be top 2. And it's not bad. She'll be fighting the Americans for the top 3 spots at the moment. And she holds 3rd place right now between the USA's Emily Sweeney and Summer Richer. About the same amount behind Sweeney as she is ahead of Richer. 10 have made it down, 1/3 of the field. We still have 20 sliders remaining here, but only a handful of them or so out of the seeded group that we figure will contend for these top spots. Green light for Barbara Allmaier, wave to the camera, and back to the top we go for the Swiss Miss, 27-year-old Natalie Maag. Natalie, a world championship medalist last year in the sprint competition in Altenburg, Germany. She also has a pair of podiums in World Cup traditional races, including her home track in Switzerland, where the World Cup will return next year following the Olympic Games. Though she has the good fortune of being able to train with the German team, Natalie has a fight every year to try to get funding from her Swiss program. She has to work part-time jobs during the off-season. She has to make enough money to make it through the World Cup tour. So there you have an example of what Steve was asking about earlier, the love of the sport. You've got to love it, and in Natalie's case, she's shown improved results over the years. Maag, pretty uneventful run, not showing terrific speed, but not bad at 81.4 miles per hour, a 5th place time, 3,500ths behind Taubitz.
In the moment, finish time 55.15.
A lot of paddles on this Winterberg track, and when we return to the Königssee track next year, these are the 2 tracks renowned for the women's sport being all about paddling your way to a start time. Königssee, the old start at least, was very flat. Don't know about how they're rebuilding that. But here sometimes we see 6, 7 paddles. Used to see even more from Tatjana Höfner back in the day. Ashley Farquharson, the 3rd of 4 Americans She's 25 years old. Ashley enjoying a very steady World Cup season. One rough race in Innsbruck, but everything else has been top 8, and in 2 cases, 5th place finishes. Ashley qualified for her first Olympic Games in 2022, where she finished 12th for the United States. 6th fastest start time. She improves that to the 4th fastest the next play. Now you see she's in the green. Now Julia was very fast on the lower part of the track, so Ashley would need to be perfect to even contend, and not surprisingly falling in the red. Back into the green though. So this is a good run for the young American. Anything within a tenth of a second, but it boils down to right here, the lower labyrinth. She's not perfect, but she's pretty good. This could be 2nd place, and it is, within 800ths of a second behind the German, Julia Taubitz. So right now, USA holds down positions 2, 3, and 5. With the Austrian in 4th, the German in 1st, and a good run for Ashley Farquharson, who is starting to find excellence and consistency on all of the tracks around the world.
Let's go 54!
Und nicht nur ihre Trainerin, klatscht hier und spendet ihr Applaus, sondern Winterberg!
Now Elina Bota of Latvia, 1 victory this year. That was the only win race won not by Natalie Egle or Julia Taubitz. Start record, 4.903. A 5.024, 2nd fastest start time, nowhere near the record set 15 years ago. Maybe it was a slightly different start shape then. Verena Hofer still with the fastest start today, a 5.01, which is 200 still off of Natalie's record. Quickly into the red, but I've said it several times already today, Latvia in doubles, really quick down below if they could handle the tight turns of 12, 13, and 14. Nicely done, but a little bit of a skid into 14, just a little bit. But it prevents her from having the optimum line, and as you see, the exit was rough. So Elina pays the price despite a fast start time and seemingly a pretty smooth top half of the track. A couple of little mistakes, especially before the uphill finish, cost her dearly.
Genau, die deutschen Fans dürfen sich jetzt auf 2 Deutsche freuen. Zunächst Anna der Reiter und dann Merle Friedel.
This will be key tomorrow in team relay to straighten it out if you have a problem out of 14, because the pad lurks not long after, looming. Julia Taubitz leads the way. She's in the top 5 in the World Cup standings, and the 4 others currently in the top 5 in points are the remaining 4 in the seeded group. Anna Bierreiter, coming off of a breakout performance last week with a 2nd place finish, her first podium of the season. Last week in Altenburg, she said earlier this week she's finally happy to achieve something this year. And she did become German champion this year in the German national competition earlier this season, which was here in Winterberg. So clearly she's comfortable on this track, and that's evidenced by being in the green still after the fastest start time. Falling for the moment behind Taubitz, and unless she can make up some time, she'll also fall behind 1 or 2 of the Americans. Let's see how she's doing down here. Very nice lines. This could be tight. She stopped the bleeding, I believe. No, lots of bleeding, and I'm not quite sure why, and Patrick Leitner didn't seem to be sure why as well. He seemed a little perplexed as Anna Bierreiter falls back behind her teammate Taubitz. the Americans and one Austrian. Seemed okay down here. Fastest start time at a 5.0 or a 4.998, the first sub 5 of the day. Well, the Bavarian probably has a lot of friends and family here, as this is the race closest to her home this season. Mirla Frabel, rough weekend. Now looking at the wrong one. Mirla Frabel, no rough weekends. She's really emerging, like Ashley Farquharson of the U.S. This is a young athlete that is showing this season she belongs with all of the best in the discussion. Mirla, 4th on the World Cup, 2 podiums, 4 top 5 finishes in 5 races. Born in the city of Suhl in Thuringia, not far from the track in Oberhof. Mirla did not have a great result last year on this track in Winterberg. So she's looking forward to returning home for the 2nd race of the year on her home track in Oberhof next year, or next week, where she had a podium last month. To the finish, let's see what Mirla Frabel puts down. Mirla with the 7th place time right now. Everyone seems somewhat satisfied with that. Taubitz leading for Germany over Americans Farquharson and Sweeney. We have 2 more remaining right now in the seeded group. And if you know your luge and you've been following this year, they are the 2 that have been the most successful so far this season. First up, we have Madeline Egle. Madeline leads the World Cup with 3 victories. She'll be followed by her closest pursuer in the points lead, Lisa Schulte. Madeline, also like Elina and like Anna, very quick here at the start. Let's see if she can do a sub 5, 5.019. Madeline was struggling with a headache during the week and had to miss a few training runs, but she's very comfortable on this track, she said. She is comfortable with the setup of her sled that the coaches have done a great job with. She won this race last year in Winterberg, and she is opening up a huge lead over Julia Taubitz. Out of 9, 10, and 11. Let's see, only the Labyrinth stands in the way of a first place run in a track record, perfection. This is Egle doing what her sister did earlier, and that's being perfect, but she lost time down at the bottom. I'm not quite sure. Christian Igatler, the coach of the Austrian team, is satisfied with it. Again, I don't have the keen eye that our usual guest athlete analysts have to pick up where she may have lost time. All we know is that green turned red after she was extending her lead for most of the run. Thumbs up, well in the hunt, Taubitz and Egle holding the top 2 spots with another great luger ready to go. Lisa Schulte turned a lot of heads last year when she captured the World Championship in Altenburg, but she had been coming on. She had been showing improvement over several seasons. And she has backed that up with podium results in more races than not since those World Championships. Currently in 2nd in the World Cup standings, only 4 points behind her countrywoman, Madeline Egle. Lisa's still looking for her first ever World Cup victory to go with that World Championship, but plenty of podiums, including 4 this year. Just 5,000ths and now 200ths back. Smooth lines here, could be top 3. At the moment, top 4 looking more likely, but we've been surprised by a lot of these times down here at the bottom so far in run number 1. Now the 26-year-old Austrian on the finish curve, uphill here to the curve 14 exit. 4th place right now, in between 2 Americans. So the battle for the podium is going to be a lot of fun. Taubitz and Egle separating themselves by a bit over the rest, but Farquharson, Schulte, and Sweeney, and Barbara Allmaier for that matter, will have a nice battle for 3rd place in run number 2. Red light as she'll get her sled and body weighed before heading back up to the start for run number 1. So as we make our way to the unseeded group, the rest of the qualifiers, Karina Buzitoy will start things off for Romania. If you don't have the stats in front of you, and you can get them at FILluge.org, where you have the live ticker. But I will tell you that Julia Taubitz leads the way by 17 thousandths up on Elina and Egle. Ashley Farquharson in 3rd, Lisa Schulte 4th, Emily Sweeney 5th place right now. Anna Beelreiter back in 7th as the 2nd fastest German. Buzitoy on ice, 22 years old. Karina with no top 20s this year. Her best result, a 21st place in Oberhof. Great sound of the sled in the lower labyrinth. 17th place right now, holding about to form based on the results of the seeded athletes and the other top qualifiers yesterday. Faster only than Margita Sirsnina of Latvia, who finished 5th yesterday in Nations Cup. With several still good athletes, experienced athletes to come, including Nina Zugler, Tanitska of the Ukraine, Melina Fischer of Germany still to come, and some experienced Canadians. With all of them still to come, top 20 is going to be odds against for Karina Buzitoy. We will see Karina tomorrow in team relay, we hope. But here's the first of said Canadians. Caitlin Nash back after a week away from World Cup action, and actually several weeks because the Canadians missed the Sigulda event. Caitlin, 21 years old, former doubles specialist, really good doubles athlete, in fact, who made the switch full-time to singles. This is her favorite track, according to Caitlin. She loves the balance of speed, technical elements, and being able to let the sled run. Despite it being her favorite track, she had a 25th place finish last year here. Let's see if she can keep it within about 0.6 of a second of the lead. She's within 0.4 now, with the lower third of the track still to come. Looking for a top 15 down here at the finish. Caitlin Nash, the first of 3 women's singles competitors from Canada in today's race, 17th place. Losing some time down at the bottom. Sitting okay, but not safely inside the top 20 at the moment at the end of the run.
Next starter from Argentina,
Hello.
Hello, Caitlin. Hello to all of her fans back in Whistler. Speaking of Whistler, that's the hometown of our next competitor, native Argentinian, Veronica Ravenna. Veronica, 26 years old, a youth Olympian, and a two-time Maine Olympian with 24th place finishes in both Pyeongchang and Beijing. Top 10 yesterday in the Nations Cup. All things being relative, that's a very good result for Veronica. Currently 33rd in the World Cup standings with part-time results along the way. Her best finish so far this season, a 26th place in Oberhof. So she figures to do better than that, especially if she can knock her way into the top 20 here after run number 1. Losing a ton of time down at the bottom. Good form across the finish line for Veronica Ravenna, 20th place right now, and with an Italian, a couple of other Canadians, and even a German still to come. Her area is pretty precarious in hopes of making it into run number 2. But good lines for Veronica Ravenna. A little bit of a look of frustration in her eyes. Nina Zugler has been top 20 in every race but one this year, that one being last week in Altenburg, where she finished just out of the top 20 in 22nd place. Now the last of the Italians, hugging that right rail off of the start. And a slow start time, only the 18th fastest for Nina. Makes her home in Carabinieri in northern Italy. Nina finished 15th at the last Olympic Games. Her first so far. A little bit of steering down here below in the lower labyrinth for Italy's Nina Zugler. Let's check out her finish placing. 20th right now. She knocks Ravenna out of the top 20, and she'll hang on and watch, I would say, the next 3 or 4 sleds to see if she can hang on to a top 20. Odds against, but a possibility for sure. As number 3 in the depth chart for Italy at the moment, Nina does not have, by any slice, a guaranteed Olympic position next year. There was a time where all nations could qualify 3 in singles and 2 in doubles for the Olympic Games. But now the international standards have gotten a lot stricter. And some teams just 2 in singles, some only 1. Women's doubles will only have 11 in the field as of right now. It's a lot tougher to make the Olympic Games. Here's Juliana Tanitska, who some weekends is the fastest of all of the Ukrainians. Still just 21 years old. She's put in a couple of spectacular performances still during her young career, including a 16th place result in Sigulda 2 weeks ago. Tanitska also was part of that Sigulda team relay where Ukraine captured its first ever podium in that discipline. Top 20 is the key statistic here for the rest of these athletes who qualified yesterday in the race and look to qualify for more racing today. Tanitska in 22nd place. That will end her day as Nina Zugler remains on the bubble with 8 remaining.
22nd. Finish time 55.89.
So, gerade bei dem zweiten Lauf nicht dabei ist, kriegt sie jetzt von uns nochmal einen besonders großen Applaus hier in der Zielarena. Juliana Tunica.
Juliana really impresses with her driving. She gets a little stronger, better equipment. She should be good. Her start times are already pretty quick, and her hair is longer than anyone in luge outside of Tatiana Ivanova. Now Emma Eriksson of the U.S., 21 years old, her first full season on the World Cup. Her favorite track is Park City, where the FIL Luge World Cup will return to next December. Emma finished in 12th place at the Junior World Championships last year, and certainly will be in the competition this year in the under 23 World Championship category. If Eriksson can be within 400 or 4/10 here, top 20 is a possibility. This is going to be tight. Right now she's on the outside looking in, 21st place at that last split. The lines are pretty good down here at the bottom, but is there time to be found? Yes, a little bit. So Emma Eriksson sitting on the bubble right now in 20th place. She knocks Zugler out of the race. But Emma still also odds against with Germany's Melina Fischer still to come. After a rough race yesterday in Nations Cup, Fischer, if she keeps it at all clean, should make it into the top 20. Eriksson hoping to put 4 from the USA in run number 2, making up 20% of the field. Now the second of 3 from Team Canada, Trinity Ellis. When not luging, Trinity likes rock climbing, hiking, and skiing. All things you can do in abundance in her home in British Columbia, in the Coast Mountains. She lists as her favorite musician Noah Kahan, not to be confused with Noah Kahan, men's singles luger. Ellis within 1900s here, and again the magic number split time will be 4/10 back, but this is a little too early to be back by 4/10. It is going to be at the next split time you want to be within 4/10. So it's not trending in Ellis's direction, and she's skidding her way here in the 10, 9, 10, and 11 combination. Likely one and done for Canada's Trinity Ellis, as she finishes in 24th place. Will the Canadians head to Oberhof next weekend, or will they get a little extra practice time before the World Championships? If any of our Canadian spectators, parents, or Sam, Alex, any of you watching back home today, if you know the answer to that, please let us know. Okay, American Emma Eriksson is sitting on the bubble in 20th place. And her last likely hurdle to overcome is this woman here, Melina Fischer, the 4th and final of the Germans. Rare is a day where Germany doesn't put all 4 of its athletes into the second round. Melina has 2 top 10s this year. Had a disappointing qualifying race yesterday, and not great start lines so far, as she is veering a little left and right on the slow part of this track. Staying off the wall, however. Already 200s, already in the teens in her placing at this point of the track. It appears the ice is holding off pretty well. Now 1/10 of a second. I think it's looking pretty good for Melina if she can avoid any major problems. Here we go. This should be a top 20. This lower labyrinth has not caused the issues that the double sleds faced earlier today. Hopefully I don't jinx her. Now this will be a top 20, it could even be like a top 15. Elina Fischer in 13th place. Nicely done. Germany with 4 in the top 13 for that matter. And the day ends abruptly for Emma Eriksson as she is relegated to 21st place. And the bubble now belongs to Margita Sirsnina of Latvia, who's in 20th. Nice piece of driving by Elina Fischer, who finished 14th at this World Cup last year and currently sits in 13th place. One of 4 Germans in the top 13. Elina Schulte now battling with Juliana Tanitska for top honors amongst Ukrainians, especially with Elina Stetskiv concentrating solely on doubles.
Elina Schulte ist gestartet mit einer Zeit von 5,09.
Schulte's best result this year is a 23rd place finish in Sigulda, the Ukrainians' home track. This is also Elena's favorite track, Winterberg. Her goal, a very straightforward one, her goal for the season. To become faster is what she writes. 7/10 back, not looking good for run number 2 for Elina Schulte. Not bad with the driving, not necessarily great with the speed. At 81.2 miles per hour, 26th place for Ukraine. Fastest speed so far today is by the first run 5th place finisher, Emily Sweeney. Emily had an 85.1 mile per hour clocking down there near the bottom of the track. Taubitz, who currently leads the way, had the 2nd fastest speed. 4 remaining, with the possibility that the Canadian waiting on deck could make her way into the top 20. But before she goes, here's Hulian Hu, the 24-year-old Chinese athlete from the Sichuan province. Hulian finished 28th at the World Championships. She had a problem at the start. I didn't see that, but I heard our track announcer talk about problema. So we'll get another look at that in a moment. World Cup finale this year will be back at the Dragon, the track in Beijing. And the athletes have told me that they'll really enjoy being back in China with an opportunity to explore that historic city, not during a pandemic, and they have the ability to be out and about. To the finish, Hulian Hu with a 27th place result. One more Chinese athlete still to come in start position number 30. Yeah, that was the problem in the start, in which we referred to a moment ago. Quick little jerking of the sled to the left. When you're going 80 miles per hour down here at the bottom, it's just impressive that these athletes can keep it off of the wall. Now the final of the Canadians, Emberly Susko, and our thanks to Shannon for writing in to let us know that Canada will be at Oberhof for the World Cup next week. But as far as here in Winterberg, Emberly Susko last month had 2 podiums in the junior World Cup races, including one here in Winterberg, one in France. So Emberly with a little more experience on this track than a lot of the senior athletes. And let's see if she can sneak her way into the top 20. Just the second race of this season for Sesko, who competed part-time last year as well on the World Cup, including a 27th place finish here. Now this is going to be probably outside looking in, but it's going to be tight. This could hover right around the 20th position. A little bit of drama and suspense here in the very late going of run number 1. Will she make it into the second run? She does. 19th place. So Amber Lee knocks Margita Sirsnina out of the race into 21st place. And Amber Lee doesn't yet guarantee her position, but in 19th place with 2 remaining, she's probably in good shape. Now sitting in 20th, Karina Buzitoy of Romania. 2 remain, 1 from Poland, 1 from China. So possible that 2 of the 3 Canadians in today's race will qualify for run number 2. That remains to be seen. And now Klaudia Domorodska. If you were to be given a medal for just showing up, Klaudia might be the winner. Every week we see her proudly representing Team Poland on the World Cup. Never sensational results and an occasional crash here and there. But Klaudia had what may be a career best 16th place result last week in Altenburg. A little bit of a reward for all of her efforts over the last several seasons as the lone Polish woman in singles. So far, so good for Domorodska. Let's see if she's within 4/10 here, just outside of that. But a challenge of the top 20, perhaps. If she can keep it together with clean lines here in the labyrinth, will we see Poland in run number 2? We will not, as she just falls out in 22nd place. Karina Buzitoy stays on the bubble with 1 remaining. Amber-Lee Sesko officially now into run number 2 in 19th place with 1 remaining. One remaining now here in run number 1. Final race of the day in Winterberg. Peishan Wang of China. And a shout out to Team Ireland's Elsa Desmond, who is the first out, just missed making today's World Cup by 1 position. So Elsa, we miss you in today's race. We also miss you with today's commentary as we're flying solo, singles announcing this weekend from Winterberg. Pretty good start time for Peishan Wang, 10th fastest of the race so far. Peishan had 1 disqualification, 4 other races she managed finishing time, some of those in the Nations Cup, with their best results being a pair of 25th place finishes. This will not be a qualifying run for the second heat, so I can tell you pretty safely that Karina Buzitoy now is safely in 20th place, as the 2 Chinese women will end up out of the top 20. But making it down safely at 81 miles per hour, Peishan Wang concludes run number 1 with a 29th place finishing time. Everyone kept the runners on the ice. That's good news. We didn't see that in either of the 2 previous races of doubles this morning. Really great look at that last second preparation, cleaning the runners.
und dann die
US-Amerikaner, Farquharson, 54,18 und dann Egle und Schulte auch unter 55.
Situation here after run number 1. It's all the main players who have had the podium positions and finishes so far this season leading the way. Julia Taubitz looking for her second win of the season. Egle in search of victory number 4. Ashley Farquharson hoping for her first podium of the season. Emily Sweeney in the hunt. And of course, Lisa Schulte in 4th place right now looking for yet another podium and hoping to recapture the overall points lead in the World Cup standings. Run number 2 to decide the winner of the 6th race of the EBERSPA Luge World Cup season. Run number 2 coming up just a little bit from Winterberg, Germany.
Und Gastdienstler